All right, we're here today to continue our discussion on boundaries for your soul. This is a book by Allison Cook and Kimberly Miller, and we've done a bunch of videos on these. You can see them on Facebook or YouTube if you want to see the previous discussions. But today's discussion is going to be called Boundaries with Anger. Richard Rohr made this statement. He said, if we do not transform our pain, we will most assuredly transmit it. That means if I don't deal with my pain in a healthy way, I'm going to transmit that to the other people in my life. It's going to get in the way of healthy relationships. In Ephesians 4 in verse 26 in the Bible, it says, go ahead and be angry. You do well to be angry, but don't use your anger as fuel for revenge. And don't stay angry. Don't go to bed angry. Don't give the devil that kind of foothold in your life. So as we talk about anger today, we need to realize that this can be a destructive force in our lives if we're not careful and we don't deal with our anger in a healthy way. Anger, if we needed to give a definition for it, one of the simplest definitions in the book is it's a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. And one of the things we will recognize that we've talked about in previous weeks is this idea of a U-turn. We want to be able to use anger and help turn it around instead of it being an overwhelming force in our lives, to be able to turn it around and do a U-turn with ourselves and that overwhelming anger and turn it into something that could actually be positive for our lives. And the way we would do that is the way that we've talked about already about other things, is that we want to focus on this anger. We want to befriend it, get to understand what it's all about, and then invite it toward Jesus and invite Jesus toward our anger so that he can minister to that part of us. And then that part of us can unburden itself and be unburdened from that sense of a burden that it might be carrying. And we'll talk about why anger would be holding on to any kind of burden as we move on here. But there are benefits of anger. It's a God-given emotion. The Bible just said there, you do well to be angry. So it's a God-given emotion, and it needs to be heard, not necessarily silenced. And one of the reasons is that it will point you to exiles that need your attention. So when I get angry, a lot of times there's a reason I'm getting angry, and it's usually that anger that I feel is protecting a vulnerable part of me. It's protecting a part of me that has been hurt in the past. And so your anger will point you to exiles, and so you need anger. It also can protect you from danger. You've been hurt in the past, or there's been some kind of dangerous situation in the past and that has made you angry in the past. And so anger now in the present can protect you from putting yourself in another dangerous situation. Another thing it can do is to become an ambition for you or a motivation. I've heard people, they are angry about something, and I'll say to them, so tell me, what are you going to do? Because you're angry, what are you going to do? What are you going to do positively with that energy that anger is giving you right now? And then another thing it can do is to help us fight for justice. If something unjust has been done to us in the past and we're angry about that, we can fight for justice for ourselves, and we can fight for it for others. And also the last thing is that it speaks honestly or points out difficult truths. When we're angry, it pushes us to say something about what's going on. And it helps us to be honest with other people and also share things that might be difficult for other people to hear. Now, what are the dangers of anger? We know that there are dangers because we know that other people's anger has hurt us and our anger has hurt other people. Well, there's irritability that we might have and hostility that we may have toward other people. I remember having this for about 10 years with someone that was a part of my life and did something wrong to me and to others that I knew. And I held on to that for almost a decade. And so because of that, I also had aggressive impulses and actions. I actually called this person up once, partially because I just wanted them to know that I knew where they were and I knew what they had done all those years ago. Also, there's this danger that we could be harshly judgmental in our attitude toward ourselves and others. And I remember having this judgmental attitude toward this person while sort of giving myself a pass when it came to the same kind of issues that I was upset at in this person's life, but I kind of gave myself a pass in that area. Also, there's a sense of cynicism or bitterness that can creep in there where we just don't care anymore because we've become so angry about something. course, we know that there's physical tension. Sometimes we're clenching our fists. Sometimes we hold it in our shoulders and our neck and our back. There's this physical tension that can happen when we're angry, and that can have effects on our body over time. Then, of course, there's the swearing, yelling, and negativity that comes along with anger. And so those are some of the dangers. Boundaries for our anger. What does our anger need? Well, our anger needs to develop a comfortable distance. We need to develop a comfortable distance from our anger so that we can help that anger find its rightful place in what we would say is our internal family. Because inside of you, there's a whole family. There's fear, there's anger, there's joy, there's disgust. There's all these things inside of you, and you need to be able to help that anger find its rightful place. Sometimes what our anger needs is to be open to hearing another perspective. When I'm upset at that person, I have a very narrow idea of that person and what they've done. And I'm not really looking at all the facts and all the extenuating circumstances. I'm just looking at the fact that this person hurt me. And we need to be willing to humble ourselves before God and open to his instruction on how we should proceed best. We're angry now, what are we going to do about it? We need to learn to pray that others with whom we're angry will be filled with the fruit of the Spirit. I remember being angry at someone, and this idea of praying for them, has a profound effect on me when I think about what I could have done in that situation. Instead of calling them and having this sense of being better than them, I could have called them with a sense of concern that God would help them grow. So there are fears that our anger carries. One of the fears is that no one will take care of what I'm protecting. When I'm angry, I'm protecting something, right? And when I'm protecting that thing, I may think that no one else is going to do it, so I have to do this. And my anger has this idea and this burden that it's carrying of protecting myself or someone else. There's another fear that my voice won't be heard. If I don't yell, if I don't scream, if I don't get angry, then is anyone going to listen to me? Is anyone going to appreciate me? There's injustice that I've suffered, and that injustice will not be avenged if I don't get angry, is what we say to ourselves, right? So what do we do in this situation? Well, one of the things we can do is to notice that anger is taking over. Just saying, I'm feeling anger right now. I'm feeling angry. Notice that, and notice that maybe it's getting a little out of hand. And then view this as an invitation for you to befriend that angry part of yourself and the hurting part that the anger is trying to defend. Like I said earlier, anger usually is defending something. And that it could be defending sadness, it could be defending fear, it could be defending lots of different things. We want to find out what that is. We want to let your anger know that you're taking the lead. And for those of us who are Christians, we take lead with the Holy Spirit. God's Spirit can help us take the lead and to deal with these overwhelming emotions. And these angry feelings can manifest themselves in different ways. One is the target of our anger could be others, could be another person, or it could be ourselves. We could be angry with ourselves, or maybe we're even angry at God. So we want to figure out where's this anger going? What is the target of my anger? Is it myself? Is it someone else? Is it God? Or maybe it's a mixture of all three of those. And there are extremes, of course, that we go through during these times when we're angry. One of them is called the fight mode, where we're taking justice into our own hands and we're literally fighting that other person with our words, maybe with our hands, or maybe in some other way, maybe a passive aggressive way. And then there's the flight mode, which is where we don't really advocate for ourselves because we leave the situation and we don't do anything about the sense of anger. We get out of there as fast as we can. I have a picture of a guy, looks like a marathon runner, and he's sweating and he's just running away from the scene of the anger as fast as he can. So what can we do in a positive way? Well, we can pause. When we're getting angry, we can just take a moment just to pause, to be still, and to honor that angry part of us, to offer that part of us time and space. It's going to need that time and space in order to gain perspective. We can pray for this part of ourselves, asking God to help it to see as he does. God, help me to see this other person that I'm angry at with your eyes. Help me in this situation because I can't see what's true and what's not. Then you can help determine what action you're going to take on behalf of the anger. So I'm angry about this situation. Now, what am I going to do about it? What is my action going to be? What can I do that's going to be productive with this anger? Well, in some cases, once we have calmed down and once God has ministered to us, then we can speak calmly, perhaps to the person who hurt us. That might be one application. And I want to say this is a phrase that I heard recently that really has impacted me. And I think it makes a lot of sense and it could really change your life. And that is, speak on behalf of your anger, not from your anger. If I speak from my anger, it's going to look like a tornado. It's going to look like I've blown my top, right? If I let the anger speak, that's what's going to come out. But if I speak on behalf of my anger, if I mediate between my anger and the other person, if I get in between and I let the Spirit of God help me, then I can speak on behalf of my anger. I can say, you know, when you said that or when you did that, that upset me. That's a very different experience than me exploding on someone. And there may be some other productive action that you want to take after you've calmed down. Maybe it's not speaking to the other person. Maybe it's just letting the situation go. But whatever that productive action is, you can take productive action. That's the point we want to say about anger, is it doesn't have to always be destructive. If I have anger toward myself, I would call that the inner critic. My inner critic lets me know every time I mess up. He's a protector. He's trying to keep me from messing up in the future. And sometimes I have to ask that protector, I have to ask it for space. I have to focus on it. I have to befriend it. I have to invite it to help me instead of holding me back, because that inner protector and that angry critic that's angry at myself for having messed up in the past is going to keep me from living in the present moment, is going to keep me from doing anything in the future. So I have to ask it to step back and not overwhelm me. Then we have anger toward God. If I have anger toward God, I might call this a resentful part of myself. Maybe you've lost a loved one, or you've been treated unfairly, or maybe you feel like you can't measure up, or you have this sense of rebelling against God, or maybe you're descending into what we would say is self-pity. Whatever it is, you can focus on that feeling. You can befriend it. You can invite it toward God. You can invite it to unburden itself in God's presence. And then you can integrate that anger that you have had at God into all the other things that are going on inside of you, so that all these emotions can be working for your good instead of working against you. Anger might prompt you to do something to make society better. Anger can actually help us. You know, for me, I've been helping a lot of people who've been abused and hurt and traumatized. And part of that is because I have had that experience in my past. Maybe it's homeless people or people who are poor, or maybe there's some other cause that you're going to take up because your anger is motivating you to do something to make this world a better place. I'm thinking of Jesus, and when he got to the temple and he saw that the court of the Gentiles, the only place where Gentiles could go to the temple at that time and where they could worship God, that place was full of buying and selling. There wasn't a place for a Gentile person to worship at the temple because of what they were doing. And Jesus got angry, and Jesus overthrew the tables, and he said, you know, get out of here. This is supposed to be a place of prayer for all nations. And what he was talking about was he was signaling the Gentiles. That space was for the Gentiles. And so Jesus' anger caused him to do something to make his world a better place. So this is Boundaries for Anger today. There's a movie that's really helpful to understand what we're talking about, because what we're talking about is internal family systems. It's an approach, a psychological approach. And this Inside Out movie that you can get from Disney Pixar has some wonderful sequences in it. Will help you to understand how this works and how our emotions work on the inside of us. And then, of course, the material that we used today came from Boundaries for Your Soul, a book by Allison Cook and Kimberly Miller. If you'd like to join us live for these discussions, you can go to meetup.com/checkyourcompass. And you can find out more about our live meetings when we do this. Our next session will be Boundaries with Fear and Anxiety. That's going to be 2 weeks from today. So you can go to meetup.com/checkyourcompass, or you can check out the videos when we post them on Facebook or YouTube. Thanks for joining us today.